Hello and welcome! Sourdough at home again. Cheers everyone, hope you're doing okay. It's getting tough, isn't it? Homeschooling's tough. Joe Wick's workout in the morning is tough. My arm's hurt. I like working from home, but with everyone around, yeah, it's tough. Okay, anyway, but hey, to make things better, what we're going to do is we're going to make some pizza dough, and then tomorrow we're going to make some pizza. But like, this is just, I'm going to just show you how to make a simple dough, super easy. And at the moment, everyone's freaking out. They can't get flour, they can't get yeast. So this is I thought I'd do this pizza recipe just to show you how you can make pizza at home if you can get some flour, that is, but using a tiny little bit of yeast. So you don't have to cane all your yeast. If you make a normal loaf of bread, you normally use, say, like 500 grams of flour and use like 7 grams of yeast. And you know, like for a few, a week making bread or whatever, like you've used all your yeast, and like at the moment you just can't find it anywhere. Just can't get it. So this is my pizza recipe where I use a tiny amount of yeast. I'll explain how much in a sec, but it's a tiny amount. So it will prolong it. So good idea, good thinking. Yeah, good thinking. Yeah. So right, okay. So how are we going to make it? I'm going to quickly talk you through the ingredients, the amounts, and put it together, and then we're just going to start mixing it up. All right, let's do this. Okay, so I've already prepared it. My videos take ages, I know that. So like, I've tried to weigh stuff out already before. So I'll show you. Ready? Okay, so in here we're going to make 10 pizzas. So we're going to, but my mixer doesn't like me because I have a big mixer, but I can't access it because I can't go anywhere. So I have to use my normal home mixer, which is cool, but I think I really I've knackered the engine on the motor on it because I tried to make it do too much dough at once. Just impatient. So I'm going to do 10 pizzas, but I'm going to do it in half and half, so you can do it. So this is enough to make 5, and then I'll do 5 again. So right, so flour, what I've done is 750 grams of flour. Any flour, this is actually 00, but you can use just a normal bread flour. Do not worry about having to try and get a special flour. You can just use a strong bread flour. Okay, just try doing that. Okay, so 750 grams of that, check. We have 19 grams. Why I do that? Like, basically to make 10, it's like 39 grams. So I've split it and I made 19 because less salt and more salt. So and what I'm going to do is get this out of the way. Don't need that. Well, I do need that. Okay, so the flour, check. And what I'm going to do is same what I do with like my sourdough. Actually, I have a recipe that you can read my sourdough. Same sort of thing when I'm mixing it up, but this time I'm going to use the mixer. So you get your salt and you put it in to one side there. So you make a little well and you put it into one side. So you can see that, and then, can you see that? And then what I'll do is I'm going to move the flour over the salt. So I'm going to put it all over. So now when I put the yeast in, it's not gonna touch the salt straight away. So then they don't cancel each other out. The salt basically doesn't kill the yeast. So doing it like that. Okay, check. Then here is the yeast. Look at that. That is a tiny amount. So what I do for to make 10 pizzas, I use 1.5 kilos of flour and only 0.4 of a gram of yeast, which is nothing for that amount of flour, but it's a really slow overnight prove. So it tastes really good. It's like it's got a really deep flavour to it, and it slowly airs up. So and it's easy. I can make it now. The kids are in bed, everyone's asleep. I can just quickly make this up, leave it in the fridge. Tomorrow I'll get it out, roll it into balls, and we can make pizza. Nice and easy. At the moment, you don't want to be like trying to, you can do it in the day, but you don't want to try and like, oh, your timings, everything's crazy, kids are crazy, you might have to go out, you might have to do whatever, I don't know, like, you want to make it easy on yourself. So this is a really easy way to get a great result. So yeast, it's not very often everyone has like digital scales that can measure this amount. They normally, minimum is a gram. So what you should do is, you can see, to make 5 pizzas, I mean, it literally is like a third of a teaspoon. Look, I'll put it in my hand so you can sort of see. Look at it, it is like nothing. So you could even just do a couple of pinches, really. So you put that in the other side of the well, and then you've got to get the water. I'll come back because I haven't got the water ready. Hang on. Put some tunes on as well. I don't know what I was doing. It's getting too carried away. Talking. If you know me, that I do that a lot. Okay, so I've got 250 grams of cold. So run the tap for a while, pour it in, and then to top it up, because you want it lukewarm, you want it body temperature, you don't want, use the hot tap. Don't use the hot tap. Get a kettle, boil it up, and then top it up with that. So what you're trying to get is 450 grams. Okay. So I think I maybe get too much hot here. Yeah, that's going to get too hot. Hang on. Yeah, right. Okay. So I've stopped at 400. Hang on, I'm going to get a bit more cold in there. A little bit more. And always, it's a good thing. Someone taught me when I was making bread to weigh it. Okay, it's 450 now. Perfect. So you want to weigh your water, not try and measure it by eye, because it's quite tricky. You know, like I am sort of on there, but it's too hard. If you weigh it, you're more accurate. So, and you got to be pretty precise with this baking stuff. Okay, so 450. Yep, lovely jubbly. And then you pour this onto the yeast. So you see, the yeast is in there, tiny little bit of yeast, and you just pour it into that well. So because it's sort of lukewarm, it will bubble up straight away. You see that? It's bubbling. And what you've got to do is you can just leave it for 30 seconds, leave it for like a minute, just so the yeast dissolves a bit in the water, but it's away from the salt because we've buried the salt the other side of the mixer, the other side of the mixing bowl, so the yeast can just do its thing, dissolve, and then when we're ready we'll put it in the mixer, and then once it's mixing it'll incorporate the salt and we'll be good. And by the way, with the salt I did the same as I do in the sourdough recipe I've put up, is I get a pestle and mortar, because I use like a coarse sea salt, molten sea salt, and I get a pestle and mortar and make it really fine, blend it down so it's really light and puffy, so when it goes in it mixes well and it's not like lumpy and doesn't take a while to dissolve in the dough. It's a good tip, that one. Tell your mum, tell your friends. Yeah, I've done a mix. You can look in different hydrations, you can look it up. It gets a bit complicated to begin with, but it does make sense after a while. It's basically about how much water you add. So the hotter the oven, the less water you add, because as soon as you put it in like a pizza oven and it's a high temperature of like 350 to 400, it's a lot of heat, and it evaporates, you know, the water, and it creates the air in the bubble. If there's too much water in there, it does work, but you have a risk of maybe like burning the base a bit because it's a bit too wet. So, which I've done that. Everyone's done that. So basically you use a slightly dry one for hotter ovens. And then if you're going to do this, for example, in your kitchen, in your normal oven, like on a baking tray or a stone, what I'd suggest is you add a bit more water. So you do a bit more, you hydrate the mixture a bit more. So basically what you should do for 5 pizzas, you do 750 grams of flour, 19 grams of salt, 0.2 grams of yeast, so like about a third of a teaspoon to half a teaspoon, maybe something like that. And then for water, you should use, hang on a sec, just double checking what I said, you should use 525 grams. So, that's what you should use if you're cooking under 300 degrees, which pretty much unless you have a pizza oven or stone oven, or a barbecue with a stone, pretty much what you're going to be doing. I'm doing 450 because I'm going to cook these pizzas in my pizza oven tomorrow, and I'm going to take that to like 360 odd degrees. So there you go. Right, we're back. Okay, here we go. So it's starting to bubble up now. I just left it a little while. It's starting to smell a bit yeasty. So what we'll do is we'll just put that in the mixer. Right, so you pop it in, turn it down, and then start it off nice and slow. Obviously, you can do this by hand as well. You just do the same process in my sourdough recipe. The same kneading process and folding, letting it rest for 10 minutes, coming back, fold it again. You can keep doing that. I'll also do a little bit of folding. I only just really use the mixer just to mix the first bit initially, and then I do more kneading by hand because you've got to get the love into the bread, and you've got to feel the bread and earn it. Earn that pizza, man. What I sometimes do is I sometimes get a spatula. It helps. So whilst it's going slowly, you want it to slowly incorporate the flour, but sometimes it can take a little bit longer and needs a little bit of help. This is your helping tool. So just go around the sides lightly and just put a little bit more flour in every now and then. Just keeping the mixer on slow. You just knock the sides in. Not too much. Just give me a little scoop, just getting more flour in, just so it starts to like slowly incorporate it all. We'll leave that for probably about 10 minutes or so on a slow mix. Yeah, about 10 minutes, then we'll come scoop it out and we'll put the next lot on. Okay. Yummy. I think we're good. Can you see this ball? Alright. So, I'm going to turn it off. And use a scraper, use your spatula and just scrape it off the dough hook. So you can sort of see, like, the pan, the bowl is pretty clean. So just scoop it out, put it on the side there. Right, and then we can put the next lot in. So then what I do with this is just leave it on the side there, and we can give it a little fold, but honestly I'm just gonna leave it in its bowl to sit whilst I put round 2 in. Ha ha ha! But something slightly different about this round. I've been meaning to go to my local mill and get some fresh wholemeal, freshly ground wholemeal flour, but I just haven't got quite round to it, and I've meant to. I've been there, I've bought flour in the past, but I've never actually put a handful of it in my pizza dough. I've put it in breads, but I've never done it in pizza dough, but I've been told it's really, really good, and I have tried pizza with a little bit of wholemeal in, and it's super yum. So I went there a little while ago when flour was tricky and I didn't know what I was going to do, so I just wanted to go and make sure I got some to experiment and to make bread with. So this is my local mill, the Burcott Mill. It's wicked. It's a really small place in Wookie. Yeah, it's got an old school water mill, and they make small batches of organic wholemeal flour. Lovely. So I've been making sourdough with a handful of this, and it's lovely. I'm going to do that now on. It's really good. So I'm going to try it with my pizza. So I'm going to have 5 pizzas with normal, just plain white 00 flour, and then I'm going to have the next 5 is 720 grams of flour, white flour, and 30 grams of wholemeal, fresh wholemeal. I've got it on a fine grind. You can get it extra fine or coarse. Coarse is too gnarly, but fine. It's it's got quite a bit of a texture to it. So yeah, should be nice. Well, I'm gonna try. Got got time to experiment. Okay, right, so pour that in the pan. Lovely jubbly. Make the well again to one side. Pour the nicely fine salt that I put in my pestle mortar. Lovely. Okay, so that's one side. Then move it all the other side. Move all the flour the other side to cover the salt again. Put the tiny little bit of yeast in there. And then we'll do the water again. I'm doing 450. I suggest you do 525. Because you don't want it cold, because then the yeast won't really activate. If you have it too hot, it can kill the yeast. So you want it that nice lukewarm, but then you keep using warm water from the tap. It's got other stuff in it, like you need. Doing it this way is definitely the way. Okay, then pour that over the yeast. Nice and bubbly. Leave that again for a little while. Leave it again so it will get the yeast activated. Right. Whilst you're doing that, have a sip of drink. Rum and ginger today. Rum, ginger beer and lime. Nice. I haven't got much lime, this is my last lot. It's better in the day in the sun, but that's good every time, isn't it? Good any time really. Yeah, that's probably my favourite drink, that's yum. Okay, so whilst you're waiting, put that in. You can have another little play with your dough. You see it's quite dry really. It's not quite as sticky as like the bread as the bread. And just keep whacking it and folding it. So I sort of hit it down and I roll it over, pick it up, hit it down, roll it over. So you keep getting this nice smooth dry top. You can keep whacking it if you want. You go, let out anything that's been bothering you. It's very therapeutic. You don't need to go to the gym and hit a punch bag. You just make your own bread and pizza. Right. So that's good. That I just sit that to the side, and that just sits there and just slowly relaxes. And it's quite tight there when you're trying to fold it. You see I didn't really get much of a stretch because it's still just all being put together. Give that sort of 10-20 minutes and we'll fold it again, and you'll see it's a lot more easy, a lot more relaxed. And then tomorrow, once it's been in the fridge overnight, and then we'll get out tomorrow afternoon, you basically want to I leave it around about 24 hours. It's slowly developed its bubbles and its texture, and it becomes really elastic. So you could technically, you can do this recipe in a day. So in the book I have, it says you can do it in the day. You could do this in the morning and you just leave it out. If it's not too hot, if you do it in the middle of the summer, it's going to speed everything up, and you just got to be conscious not to, like, put it in a cool place, like in a cupboard or something. If you leave it on the surface or in the sun, it won't work. Well, it will work, but it won't be very good. It's not nice and controlled. So you can mix it up in the morning and leave it out during the day. And then come the evening, you can make it in the evening. But what I like to do is I like to do a slower, longer ferment. Gets a little bit more flavour, and it also is a lot easier because now it's quite tough. So the longer you leave it, the more elastic it will get, and then it's a lot easier to shape. You don't rip it, especially if you're doing this. If you're going to do this with your kids or something. If you give it to them too early, they'll try and stretch it and they'll just rip it and put holes in it, and it just won't work. And you'll try and put it in the oven and the tomato sauce will come out and it will stick to everything, and you'll end up scooping out basically a donut with just a boiling puddle of tomato sauce, and you'll just have the crust. Believe me, I know. It's not much fun when you spent ages doing this. Just to rip it all and ruin it it's soul destroying. Oh my God, it's horrible. I just thought about it then. It's horrible. So I'm going to show you how to make it easy, so you don't do that, and you love it, and you want to do it again. Okay, this is bubbling away. I'm going to put this in the mixer. So it's starting to smell like yeast. It's had enough time away from the salt. Put it in, put it on a nice slow setting, and wait another 10 minutes. Welcome back. Never more of a app message than that right now. Good work, Volcom. Stay true to the planet. We need to stay true to the planet because otherwise it will come and bite us in the ass. Okay. Round 2 is done. Let's scoop it out. Okay, so as I normally I do it in one big batch, but I've done it in 2 smaller batches now, so you can sort of see. Okay, you can see this is a home in one, a little bit of sort of texture to it. Right, I'm just going to give it a quick whack and then leave it to relax. See, like when I do this, it's not really sticking, it's still quite tense, so it's just been mixed together. So put it in a nice bowl, set it to one side. Okay, right, if you can sort of see, this one is nice and high and tense. This one's been left for a while, it's nice and flat. So let's pick this up. I use my trusty scraper, it's very good. See, it's slightly getting a little bit tougher because it's been slightly drying out. I've left it a little while, but it's alright. You don't want to leave it too long, otherwise it dries out too much. But look, you can sort of see that I can just hold it now and it starts to stretch out. So you can already see the elasticity, like it's starting to, you know, because like when you have a pizza you sort of stretch it like this, and you can already see that just by sitting there for like 20 minutes it's already getting really sticky. But we're not doing that right now, so we just keep folding it up, keep rolling it into our ball. And then look, you can start seeing these like air bubbles in there. Big air bubbles here. See, so it's starting to get that air inside there. So you just keep rolling it around into a nice ball. And then it will slowly start drooping again. Actually, that one is ready, I'd say. If it was the same dough as well, I would put it in the same tub, but it's not, so I'm just going to use a small tub and separate them. So just going to put this one in here, and that will flatten out and it will sort of fill it and start getting air bubbles. So tomorrow that will be like to the top, nice and smooth. But what I do, a little bit of olive oil on the top, just a little bit, and I rub it in, and it just helps to stop the top from drying out a little bit. I mean, it does still dry out a little bit, it's okay. You just, when you fold it and fold it into balls, it'll be okay. But just yeah, I can't seem to not stop it from folding out. If you do know how, please do let me know, because it's slightly annoying, but it's yeah, it's alright. Doesn't matter. Put a bit of oil on there, fold it around tomorrow, it's okay. It doesn't like go like hard, it just slightly dries out. Just slightly works on my OCD a bit. Okay, so then you seal it, put it in a sealed tub, put it in a bowl, put it in a bowl, wrap it in, like cover it in cling film or the bag technique that I do now, and then you put that in the fridge. So I'm going to do that with the other one as well. I put it in the fridge and then just leave it overnight. Let's say, like, if you want to do it in the same day, leave it like this, leave it on the side, on the counter or in the bowl, and just come back to it later on. 8 hours if you're leaving it out the fridge. Okay, did everyone get everything they need? You got the quantities, got the balls. Yeah, I think you're okay. Okay, see you tomorrow. Have a good night. Bye. Welcome back. Alright, so it is, I don't even know what time it is actually, I've just started this. It's about 2 o'clock, so I'm planning to make pizza for about 5, half 5. So you want to get the dough out the fridge about 3 hours before. If it's in the summertime when it's really hot, I mean, you could even do it, just get it out like 2 hours before, because the dough really sort of like loosens up when it's warm. But it's quite cold in the winter. I found 3 hours wasn't even enough. I had to bring it out like 4 or 5 hours before, just to be able to get the dough relaxed enough to be easy to stretch. So now it's about 3 hours, 3.5 hours before, should be fine. Okay, I'm just gonna get the dough. Okay, just got it out of the fridge. So remember, I did 2 different types of dough. So this one is the white one, the 100% white. So I'm going to scoop it out in a bit of flour. I floured the surface already. I'm just going to try and scoop it out. It's quite hard because it's still really cold. Just scoop that out. It's a bit like a hard, bit of like a firm brick. But you'll be surprised how quickly this will soften up being out of the fridge. So we'll put that down there. I'll show you the recipe at the end. I'll take a picture and put it up. But they say like maybe 270 grams for a ball. That makes like a bit more of a 12-inch pizza. I do 240 and do like a 10-11 inch pizza. 240 seems to work well, and you can get a lot more out of your dough there. I'm gonna get this, and then I'm just gonna chop. You just make little chops if you've got a cutter, if not a spatula or something. This is 166, see? So then you can just chop it and pile it on top. 230, and you just chop these little bits off, and don't worry about it. You can just keep going, even though you think, oh, hang on a sec, that's not gonna work, it's not a ball or anything. So then, so you see it's like a bit of a tower, but what you do is you push it down and you get the bottom one. You stretch it around it like you're folding socks, and you make these tight little balls. And there's other ways of doing it. You see you got some little air bubbles in there. It's good, so you can just pop them, or you can leave them or something. And basically, and then you roll it around. You don't really need to put too much flour. The flour's just there. Once it's been out of the fridge for a while, it does start to get loose and sticky, so there's the flour. But at the moment it grips. If you put too much flour on, when you try and fold it into the ball, the flour will stop it from sticking together, and the ball will just open up. So you want it to be able to stick together. And then you get your tray, or I used to use like just a baking tray and stuff. So I put a little bit of flour in there. Some people do, some people don't. I just put a little bit in, and then you just start rearranging them. Basically, I'm making 10, so I normally put 11. You can put 15. You can ram them, but they'll just touch. So then you have to cut them out. So I space them out a little bit, so it just saves me when I'm serving. I can quickly scoop it out when I'm in a rush, instead of having to try and cut them out. I've got a lot of trays, so I space them out a bit more. It makes it easier to get them out. I suggest that's how you start doing. Okay, so then I'm just gonna crack on with these. All nicely rolled up in the tray, and then I just sprinkle a little bit of flour over the top. Again, some people do this, some people don't. Whatever you prefer, really. I do it just slightly stop them from sticking next to each other if they do get big. But yeah, as you can see, we got 10 nice balls there. Put the lid on and just leave this out, and then just leave this out for about 3 hours. So yeah, I'll be trying to do pizza at about 5:30, and that's how you make your pizza dough. And I'll just quickly put up a picture now of the recipe. As I said, my recipe is I use a 60% hydration, which means I use a little bit less water because I put them in my pizza oven, which is hotter. But I'm going to give you a quick shot now of the 70% hydration recipe, which I should use. Say if you've only got a tiny amount of yeast at home, or even if you've got a sourdough starter, you can do this with a starter mix as well. You don't need to cane all your yeast. You can use a little bit and just leave it to ferment longer. You get a lot better taste, and you get a better crust and everything from it. So it's a little bit more of a hassle, but actually if you make it in the evening like I do, like wait till they go to sleep, the kids go to sleep, or everyone's like, you know, it's quiet, make it in the evening and then do it the next day, bake it the next day, it's a lot easier, it's a lot more manageable, and you know, you can do it and you get a better product. I'll leave these out. As I say, it's the afternoon. That takes like 10 minutes to do it, and then just wait again, and I'll show you how to stretch them out later, or I'll do that on maybe another video or something. That's how you make your dough balls, and I'll show you how to stretch them, and then we'll put some in the oven later. Alright, bye bye.